Welcome to Remotely Interested, the podcast where we talk remote working, work life in general, and top tips to successfully work from anywhere. Today we'll hear from Michael REIS, software analyst for Richmond University Medical Center, Staten Island, New York. Originally from San Diego, Michael has over 10 years' experience consistently working remotely in the healthcare industry since 2013. He has also managed working remotely across different time zones, having lived abroad for many years in both Ecuador and most recently Thailand. Michael, welcome to the Remotely Interested podcast.
Oh, great. Thanks for having me. I'm so happy to be here.
Okay, thanks for accepting to being on the podcast today. I really appreciate it. So to kick things off, can you tell us a bit about your job and when and how remote working became a feature in your working practice?
Okay. Yeah, I work for a hospital in Staten Island, New York, and I support their IT department. I write a lot of reports. I'm the person who gets all the data out of the system, and I also do some automation. That way some of the data entry doesn't have to be handled by people. It requires some coding. Uh, I've been working remotely there fully remotely since 2013.
Okay.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Okay.
been working out pretty well. Like the way it all happened, uh, I was actually hired by a temp agency, and my second assignment as a temp agency was they got me a job at a hospital. I was just like filing papers and stuff. But that hospital had a consultant that had overstayed about 2 years supporting the software package that the hospital had just purchased. And so they wanted the consultant to train me and another employee. And that way the two of us as employees could handle all those responsibilities. So that happened, and about a year later, the other employee left, and the consultant was gone. I was the only one there handling the whole thing. So I asked for a raise, and they're like, they didn't want to give me one. And so I suggested as an alternative, I'm like, hey, how about I work from home one day a week? Because the consultant that had been there that trained me, he lived about 3 hours away. So he would always work from home on Fridays. And it was good. He was able to coach his kids in their local sports teams while also supporting us at the hospital remotely. So it was something that had been set up. They had a setup for it. They were able to do it with him, and it was better than paying me more. So they agreed. And later, I got a job at a different hospital, and when I started that new job, part of the stipulations was that I would be able to work from home 2 days a week. And eventually, I wanted to try moving abroad, and so I was going to quit. But when I went to quit, they said, well, you're already working from home 2 days a week. Why don't you just continue from wherever you're going to working abroad remotely? So yeah, and that was 2013.
Yes, I
So,
mean, that's quite some time ago, quite a bit before COVID. You know, a lot of jobs went remote because of COVID, but that's way before that. Yeah,
right.
really interesting. And to see two medical institutions then who were open to remote working that long ago, that's quite impressive.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, the technology is not new. Like so it should be so much easier now because it wasn't difficult back then. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
really the software is just basically remote controlling another computer. Uh, my job really doesn't involve much else. My desk was always notoriously empty of paperwork because I don't really use paper in my job. So it really was cut out to just use a computer from anywhere. Best kind of position. So
Yeah. And so you being the only remote member of perhaps of your team at that point, were there adjustments that had to be made, you know, in order to accommodate the fact that you were working remotely?
yeah, it was a little bit of an adaptation process because the people I worked with, their style of working was when something came up, maybe they needed my help on something, was just to run over and immediately have a face-to-face with me and maybe go
Yeah.
over a problem, come up with ideas. So that those quick, spur of the moment things had to turn into emails, and that's not as easy, it's not as convenient. But after some time, yeah, it's part of it was me getting used to it, but part of it was them getting used to it. Over time, they're able to organize their day. For example, now my boss actually likes the fact that she can send me a request right as she's running out the door. And because of my time zone difference, I can work on it while everybody's asleep. And when she comes in the office the next day, it's there. The project is done, it's waiting. So after some time, yeah, it ends up being better for everyone.
Okay, fantastic. So perhaps there was a bit of resistance at first to having to change their way of working, but eventually your colleagues as well as your boss have seen the advantages then of you actually being remote and even in a different country.
Yeah, they're always a little scared. They're like, "How do we know that you didn't fall off a mountain last week? Like, we never, if that were to happen." So, I mean, that's one of the. They haven't found a solution for that. I'm not insured. So,
Yeah. So we've touched on the fact that you're abroad. I think this is probably going to be part of the next part of our conversation about the positive aspects of working remotely. What would you say are the benefits to working remotely?
oh, well, living abroad is really nice. It's you learn a lot, get exposed to different cultures. There's all those benefits of actually living somewhere else, but then there's also the financial costs too, like being able to live somewhere where the cost of living is much cheaper while still earning the same pay as I would back home. That's been a big benefit as well. Uh, and it's neat because it's doable now, right? Like anything I do here instantly, I can get those results to somebody in a different country.
Yeah, excellent. So have you lived abroad for some time now?
Yeah, going on 11 years. I spent about 4.5 years in Ecuador and 6 years in Thailand.
Yeah, incredible opportunities that are possible thanks to remote working because there's so much to be considered, isn't it, when you move away from home? But to not have to consider finding a job with a salary that's on the same level as what you would have had at home, it's nice to not have to consider that.
Exactly. And you always have the option in the future of moving somewhere else as well. It's the benefits just keep on going. It's nice to be a little disconnected like that, right? Because that allows a lot of flexibility um,
Yeah.
as far as when you can now work at optimal hours. It doesn't always have to be, in the standard 9 to 5. Sometimes it's much more productive to work earlier or to work later. Uh,
Mm,
and also being able to get things done at other hours. Um, if something were to go wrong, a lot of the work I do has to do with computer systems. And the hospital is a 7 day a week affair. So if something breaks on the weekend, if I was not working remotely, I wouldn't be able to fix it. I'd have to go into the office.
yeah.
That wouldn't happen, right? So there's benefits even for the people I work for. A lot of times I can maintain stuff at odd hours.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was talking to another friend who's a data lead who said something similar that if everything had to be worked in the office, yeah, there's certain things that wouldn't get done. It would require a journey to the office. It would require maybe even staying overnight, something that you wouldn't want necessarily to be doing for work purposes. So to be able to work through those same tasks from home obviously is a lot more convenient for everybody concerned. Yeah.
Yeah, you get an agency. It feels like you're more in control, which is really nice too. That can lead to getting work done in a more creative way, uh, more efficient way.
Yeah.
So yeah, it really is. It leads to a better well-being, a better life work balance.
Yeah. Excellent. And I loved your point about being able to pick up work that your boss has maybe sent to you just at the end of the day, early in your day, because I think the time difference element can be a challenge in some ways, but there are so many benefits as well because I think it almost extends the day. The day becomes longer because you are working when the rest of the team is sleeping and vice versa. So the day almost becomes longer and more can get done, more can be achieved in that time.
That's true. Yeah, when I moved to Thailand, I actually didn't tell anybody. So they didn't find out for about a year. But when I finally told them a year after moving here, they're like, that's why we were getting emails at 1 in the morning. It all started to make sense. But yeah, it can be done seamlessly.
Yeah, fantastic. Those are some of the positives. We could go on all day, I'm sure. What about some of the challenges of working remotely? What do you think are some negative aspects that need to be overcome when we're working remotely?
I would say the environment. I've been on work calls before where, one time when we were living in Ecuador, my neighbor was actually raising roosters, fighting roosters. So many a work call had cock-a-doodle-doo in the background, and I had people commenting on it, like because sometimes we The people I work with, I have a call with them, but we'll also be calling vendors. They're usually pretty positive about it. One time a vendor was like, "Is that a rooster? You don't know how relaxing it is to hear something so natural."
Also, they were glad to hear it. Fantastic.
Yeah, sometimes, but I mean, you can imagine me sweating. Going on. Yeah, internet. One time I had my laptop stolen.
Oh no.
Yeah, that was tough. Like I had to find a laptop, borrow it from somebody while waiting for a new one to arrive. So that was tough. Yeah, I've had even sometimes it's technical difficulties on my side, but even on my employer side, sometimes their internet isn't good. So, and that slows me down also. I've had times where I'll be controlling a computer, using a computer that's on site. I'll be controlling it here, but then that computer freezes and I'm not there to press the button. And somebody has to press the button to restart it. So I've lost a whole day of work on that, waiting for somebody to go to work and turn it on.
Right.
Uh, yeah, so those kind of issues.
Yeah. Okay. I mean, how do you think we can overcome challenges like that when we're working remotely?
Good planning. Some of the things that have gone wrong that I couldn't fix because I wasn't physically there. After they went wrong once or twice, I was able to talk with people in IT and we came up with different solutions.
Mm.
Um, it's nice to have more than one way to connect. I've had friends in the past working remotely. They will have two different internet providers. I haven't done that, but I think that's a great idea. Like that way, if one goes down, you can rely on the other. I know I've used in the past, you have your home internet, but you can also use your cell phone internet. Looking for backups and trying to develop relationships with people who are actually on site so that they can help you out with those last little 5% of things that might
Yeah.
need some on-site assistance.
Okay. Oh, that's really good. That's a good idea. Two internet providers. I mean, obviously it's an expense, but if it's going to make sure that you can continue to work when one line is down, then yeah, I guess there's lots of benefits to being that much more available.
Yeah, it's true.
Okay. I mean, talking about what you mentioned before about meetings and not wanting to perhaps be in a situation where the sound quality isn't very good or being caught on the hop, being required to join a meeting without planning. I mean, the way you work, how do you manage the expectations of your colleagues, of your boss, to make sure that they don't expect you to be available all the time?
Yeah, I try to pick my battles. So I think beginning of the month I say yes, and after I've said yes once or twice, then I reserve the right to say no. So I have a lot of meetings at the beginning. I prioritize. There's people that you work with that have higher needs or more priority of the needs. So I try to always give them more attention first, and then delegate my attention to other people after that. It is kind of nice though. I also try to set up my workflow. The more I can manage on my phone, the more flexible it can be. Uh, Work calls is the obvious one, right? So if you have Skype or some other internet telephone provider, that way you might maybe something you have to have a call at the last minute. I've had calls while I'm out to dinner with friends, like
Mhm.
which can be annoying, right? I had to find a dark alley. Like we were out eating outdoors, so it was pretty noisy, but I was a couple blocks over to finally find a quiet area. But I mean, it is cool to, you get to build that. So going out with friends and you have a phone call for 30 minutes, you get to build that 30 minutes. So it's pretty nice.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, so if it's managed, if you manage your time as efficiently as possible, then hopefully there shouldn't be too many interruptions. And then I guess, like you say, being flexible, being prepared to take a call during dinner. I guess not too often, though you'd want to be doing that, but knowing that at
Right.
times you have to be flexible, yeah, in order to
We,
get the job done.
we talked about some of the changes, right? Since from the early 2010s to now, one of the things now is a lot of times you can control a lot of things that you used to do on a computer on your phone. I know, for example, a lot of times I have to log in and remotely control a computer or maybe log into the host software system. I can do a lot of that on my phone now. It's true, it's a lot smaller, but you are
Yeah,
able to have been able to fix problems on the fly instead of having to go back home or instead of having to always have my laptop. So that helps with the flexibility.
yeah. Right. So you mentioned earlier about building a relationship, with certain colleagues in the office to help you out with certain aspects. And that's my next question, really. In order to be able to effectively work remotely with somebody, what are the kind of qualities that make it easier to work remotely? And what are some of the aspects that maybe make it difficult to work remotely?
Yeah, for my part, I know the more you can be responsive quickly to people monitoring like requests. The thing that people hate the most is when they don't know if you're going to respond in time for whatever. Every issue can be timely, right?
Yeah.
So that's a big one. But also, it's nice to have coworkers who appreciate the circumstance, are flexible as far as when meetings are scheduled, and also value what you do. You know, a lot of times if the service is valuable, then the little inconveniences from being remote are not a big deal. They can be overcome. Uh,
Mm.
so yeah, I'll give you an example. We just recently, I work at a hospital with about 1,000 employees, but I closely work with about 5 people.
Yeah.
And recently tried to hire somebody completely remote. It was the first time I started on site, transitioned to remote, but this new hire was going to be remote from the beginning. And so after a couple months, I checked in and I was like, I haven't got to work with them. How to go with that new hire? And it turned out they had let the new hire go. And I was surprised. And I said, well, what happened? And they're like, well, the remote working thing, sometimes we couldn't reach
Ah.
her, or one time we had a Zoom call and she had her previous employer's badge card on.
Oh no.
That that gave them the impression that, maybe she was working from home for two companies because, I mean, just forgot to take it off while switching Zoom calls.
No.
Yeah, those
Yeah.
kind of things.
Okay. Yeah. I think, like you said, being responsive is so important to build trust with our colleagues, with our employers, because otherwise, yeah, they could have all kinds of ideas of what we're doing. And it'd be a shame that it looks like we're not respecting the job that we do have because yeah, maybe we're doing another job. Yeah. Wow. That's that's a real shame. She's missed an opportunity there.
Yeah,
I really liked your point as well about being amenable early in the month. I'm going to note that. I think that's brilliant. So at least
yeah.
you said yes a couple of
Yeah,
times.
we're having this meeting early in the month. Yeah, it worked out well, the
I
scheduling.
should have known. Yeah, I've got you early in the month. I'm going to make a note of that. Fantastic. No, thanks so much, Mike. So, as you know, this is the Remotely Interested podcast about remote working, work life in general, and top tips to successfully work from anywhere. So, you've already provided plenty of information that comes under those categories. We're now going to find out some more thanks to the Mosaic Gold plate. Okay, no software is involved in this, I'm afraid. It's quite disappointing. I'm going to randomly select a question from this plate to help our viewers know more about your working practice. So, where are we at with the question? Okay, I think this is a good one for you. So, what stationary item or software could you not live without and why?
Oh, recently my hospital got Microsoft Office 365. So that means all the Microsoft applications I can now access through my web browser. So that's been a lifesaver. I know
Mm.
like I mentioned in the past, sometimes things go wrong with the computer or with the network on site, and I can't access all the programs I use. But now I can do so much of my work through any web browser. So that's been a big lifesaver. I use a software called VMware for like virtual machine software, VMware. That allows me to jump into it kind of creates like a fresh computer setup and also gives me access to things on their network in a secure way. So I use that a lot as well. I use ChatGPT. It's been helping me a lot. I do some coding and now I can just have it do the coding. It requires a little bit of checking, but it's been saving me a lot of time, speeding things up.
Yeah.
And it's neat because we've all been using Google Drive and stuff like that to store files, but now all my work files are securely stored on the cloud as well. So if I sent a report to somebody yesterday, now I'm able to actually, it's not just in my email, it's also kind of like in my file
Yeah.
OneDrive manager, and you can manipulate stuff all within the browser. It's so much easier, yeah, just in the last year or two because of that. If there's any way for your listeners to get those kind of software packages, that's the way to go.
Yeah. Sounds like good advice. Thanks a lot, Mike. So you've been working remotely since 2013. That's a long time. It shows it's possible. It's afforded you the opportunity to live in South America, Southeast Asia, and all the while work for US-based companies. So I'm sure that's really inspiring for our listeners. And for anybody who's thinking about getting into remote work, what last bit of advice would you give them?
Oh, if you can do it, and then go for it. Yeah, ask the favors, make the effort for it, because it can be a long-term solution. Like I said, I've been doing it for 11 years, and there are a lot of benefits for everybody involved. The amount of concentration that you
Mm,
have when you're not sharing an office with, all the things that go on in offices, the constant interruptions. It is for productivity. It can be a great boost as well. Also being available at different times. So yeah, I would definitely recommend it, and I would. The employers are going to like it too, and it's something that can be done for quite a while. So
yeah. Yeah, I thought that was interesting. You said the technology has been there for more than a decade. So sometimes it's maybe just about the companies who are willing to be open to it, willing to make adjustments, but at the same time, adjustments that lead to really positive benefits for everybody concerned.
that's right. Yeah, yeah. It's not advanced technology. Yeah, you're right. It's something that's been existed for a while. They've been making it better. Especially since COVID, when all that money was invested to it, everybody else has been trying it and jumping in on it. So yeah,
Yeah.
it's definitely doable.
Okay. Fantastic. Thanks so much, Mike. Take care. See you soon.
Yeah. All right. Take care.
Bye. So we saw how remote working offers the enriching opportunity to live abroad, experience different cultures, and easily move from place to place without having to change jobs. We saw the well-being benefits that come from having the choice to work from anywhere. It's also possible to maximise on time differences, as you're able to work in a way that suits everybody concerned, giving yourself the chance to work at times that suit you and also extending the working day. It's essential to establish a stable working environment, making sure the equipment, setup and connectivity are reliable. We need to coordinate well with our on-site team members, and by downloading working apps on our phones, this can enable us to continue working on the go. And the importance of being responsive and accepting that sometimes quickly resolving an issue on the phone when perhaps you're out and about and doing other things is a small sacrifice to be able to continue working remotely, and not such a bad thing to be able to earn money wherever you are. So, if you're even remotely interested in remote working, I'll see you next time.